thank Ansika for allowing me to introduce and award this to Susan. Susan's been my friend for 42 years. She challenges everyone to strive for their absolute best. Susan is never content with good enough. She has many talents and enhances every aspect in the world around her. I'm not an artist, so I'm coming from the community standpoint. Susan has spent a lifetime dedicated to the elevation of the visual and ceramic arts in partnership with her husband, Stephen. Their large raku pieces are in collections of institutions and individuals around the world. They have lectured and taught across the country and in Europe, including behind the Iron Curtain, and that may have a chance to do that again. I've watched Susan and Stephen take one of their 3 or 4 foot raku pieces out of the kiln. Working together, they slowly maneuvered the dangerously hot raku ceramic sculpture and buried it in an earthen fire. This process was a snapshot of their partnership. This required trust, patience, communication, and sheer grit. Together, they created something that transcended the sum of its parts, just like their marriage and their artistic partnership. Susan is not only a talented creator, but a tireless advocate for the arts. Susan has also worked to transform an entire region's perception of art. When Susan moved to Erie in the early 1970s, it was a small industrial city consumed by manufacturing and provincial attitudes, living in the glory of its past. If the arts, especially the visual arts, were considered at all, it was as something extra, a throwaway, and certainly not any part of a critical mass of the community. I met Susan in 1976 by serving together on the board of the Erie Art Center, then a minimal grassroots effort that eventually became the Erie Art Museum through our guidance and others. Susan has served on many arts group boards. Susan was the foremost arts resource on the board and grants panels of the Erie Community Foundation, which is the most significant regional public funder in northwestern Pennsylvania. She provided a reserved but forceful element among this mostly parochial male body. Her many community efforts created an atmosphere that recognized the full measure and meaning of the arts. She challenges everyone to elevate their sights and efforts, from artists to educators to community leaders. No matter the project, she is insistent on high standards and the use of best practices. Susan is committed to the idea that arts groups should have the equal prominence and influence as any other community group does. The arts are now an essential and vibrant part of the Erie community and a full partner. Susan was a longstanding member and the chair of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. During her terms as chair, Susan was instrumental in significantly increasing arts funding during Governor Ridge's administration, twice with over $1 million increases. Susan also made cultural missions a regular element in the governor's trade missions, a long-ignored thing. Susan has a genuine love of gardening. She and Stephen have meticulously made a green wonderland out of their 50 acres where their home and studio are located. They share this with the community, often hosting events for various charities and leadership meetings. Susan has memorialized Erie's most exceptional gardens of the past 2 decades for posterity. She has exhaustively documented 15 gardens for the Smithsonian Institution Archives of American Gardens. This is started in 1926, and they have thousands of gardens that were photographed and have been established what was planted there. Gardens come and go, but this is a permanent record for the community. Each one of these filings is a 4-inch thick binder filled with photographs and descriptions and graphs of what was in the garden. Above all else, Susan is driven by the spirit of generosity, sharing all she has. As an artist, Susan shares her vision and insight, always willing to make things better and more beautiful. I've profoundly benefited from Susan's friendship. She's a personal hero of mine, but also many in our community. Please join me in recognizing and honoring Susan Hale Kemenyffy.
Thank you, Marvin, for those kind remarks. And thank you, Nsika, for this honor. How good it is to have seen, as I've walked through the David Lawrence Center, Convention Center, so many friends and colleagues. I would like to tell you a very short story. Long ago, in another time, in another place, a naive young MFA graduate student listened intently as she and her teacher, a man who had known the tyranny of ignorance, walked ever so slowly beside a spring-rising river in the heartland of a country and a university that had welcomed and cherished him. Was he prescient? Could he anticipate then that for 50 years, his carefully chosen words would subtly echo through and shape another's life? It does not matter how good you are. What matters is how much better you become. It is your obligation to question and learn all that you can from me, to add the gift of your skills to the insights of your insatiably inquisitive self, and to honorably pass it on. Thank you.